Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone. Hi everyone! Today we'll be talking about everyday American culture in the US. Last time we talked about American supermarkets and how they're unique. This time we're going to look at how much it actually costs to live in New York City. When you think about America, perhaps one of the first things that might come to mind is the bright lights and the fast pace of the big city. For sure, in New York City, everyone who visits wants to go to the big tourist locations: Central Park, Times Square, the Statue of Liberty. But how much does it actually cost to live there? In this video, we're going to talk about the actual living costs of New York City. Let's start with the most basic thing you need to live in New York: an apartment. Without an apartment, you can't really say you live in New York City. But if you want to live in the city, you should be prepared to live in a small space. More than half of the apartments in New York City are 700 square feet or smaller. That's about 65 square meters. This could be for a studio apartment, which has no walls between the kitchen and the bedroom. Or it could be a one-bedroom apartment, which does have a separate bedroom. These kinds of places cost on average $1,890 or $2,100 respectively. So expect to pay a pretty high price if you want to live in the city. But keep in mind that a separate payment is required for heat and water in your apartment. For an average apartment, about 915 square feet in New York City, about $145 is required for utility bills. This covers heating, electricity, water, and garbage. For internet and phone, however, that's a totally separate payment. One of the best things about living in New York City is how convenient things are. If you walk down the street, you can quickly find a coffee shop, a bookstore, or a supermarket. Because of this, people who live there rarely have cars. It's quite expensive to keep one in the city. Instead, people use public transportation, like buses or the subway. For a monthly transit pass, you can expect to pay about $120. And if you want to use a taxi, fares start at $2.50. New York City is known for its wide variety of delicious restaurants. You can find food from all over the world. You can get anything from a food cart hot dog to an expensive steak dinner in New York City. Because of this wide variety, however, it's hard to determine a specific average for a meal. When living in New York City, you can imagine going to concerts, shows, baseball games, and so on. But the cost of these can get pretty pricey. If you want to see the latest film in New York City, you can expect to pay about $15 per ticket. If you want to do something a little more exciting and check out a Yankees baseball game, for example, it'll cost you about $50 a ticket. And if you want to check out Broadway and see one of the latest shows, you can expect to pay about a couple $100s for the best seats. There are lots of ways to determine the cost of living in New York City, but these are just a couple important aspects. So, how does New York City compare to big cities in your country? What are some things that are different? And what else would you like to know about American culture? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to learn more about American culture, click the link in the description, sign up for your free lifetime account, and start learning with us today. We'll see you next time. Bye! This kicked on in the middle of the shot. Jerk. Big cities in your country. No! Memories. Comment to us, please. Compared to big cities in your country, what are some things that are different?
Okay, let's try that one more time. Your hair.
My hair is like, I want to be in the picture.
Yeah, just that one.
Thanks. And then subscribe to our channel. Uno más!
After the wind.
Yeah! Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from Kavisha Samarasin. I hope I said your name right. Hi Kavisha. Kavisha says, what are the differences between do and does and is and are? Can you teach me? Yeah, sure. So let's start by looking at do and does. We use do and does as part of a question that we're asking, and we decide to use do or does according to the subject. So when we use the subject you, for example, we use do, like do you, something, something, something. And when our subject is he, she, or it, we use does. Does he, does she, does it? We can, of course, use other subjects with do as well. Do I, or do they, or do we? But for today's lesson, let's use you because it's a very easy example to use. So we can ask yes or no questions by putting do and does at the beginning of this question. For example, do you have a pen? Or does he have my wallet? We can ask these simple yes or no questions. We can also use do and does in information questions that begin with a WH question, like who, what, where, when, and so on. For example, what do you do means what is your job? Or what does he do means what is his job? So we use do and does as part of these different kinds of questions. So we have these simple yes-no questions where do and does come at the beginning of the question, and we have these information questions where these words come in the middle of the question. So the key here, though, is to remember that we use do with certain subjects, I, you, we, they, and we use does with other subjects, he, she, and it. So this is a quick introduction. I hope that that helps you understand the differences between do and does. So let's talk a little bit now about the differences between is and are. The key here is to remember that is used with singular subjects and are is used with plural subjects. So to give a very, very basic example, he is something something and we are something something. So in the he is something something example pattern, we have a singular subject. He is. That's one person. In the we are pattern, we have we as the subject, which represents more than one person, so a plural subject, right? So we can expand this, we can use this in other ways too. So for example, 2 dogs are at the park. That's another way to make the subject plural. Or we could say 1 dog is at the park to make the subject singular. So the key here is that is used for singular subjects and are is used for plural subjects. Also keep in mind that these are used in present tense situations. If you want to make these past tense, we would use these as was and were. So I hope that this quick introduction helps you understand the differences between do and does and is and are. Thanks very much for the question. Okay, great. Let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Matthew. Hi, Matthew. Matthew says, hi, Alicia. I'm from Peru and I'm 17 years old. I always watch your videos. Thank you. My question is, how can I improve my listening and how long does it take? I'm very good at grammar and other things, but sometimes I worry when I don't understand conversations. Yeah, sure. Let's talk about some ways that you can improve your listening skills. So I know that a lot of people, of course, want to listen to something to improve their listening skills. But like you said, it's sometimes really hard to catch all the words. If you're watching maybe a movie or like a YouTube video or something, sometimes you have subtitles, right? You have captions at the bottom of the screen so you can read what's being said, and that's really helpful, right? But what do you do if you're listening to like a podcast, for example, or maybe a news report? Those are kind of difficult situations because there's no captions, right? So what do? The thing that I recommend a lot for listening practice is to find materials that have a script. So sometimes you can find podcasts or other language learning materials that also have a script. So it's not just listening, but you have the option to listen and to read along. So this is really, really helpful for exactly the reason that you mentioned in your question. If you can't quite catch a word, or maybe there's a new expression or something like that, or maybe the way that the person speaks is kind of unique or something you haven't heard before, you can check the script and see what that person said. Like, what were the words that person used? And you can think about how that person, how that speaker connected words in a certain way. So you might be listening to something that has a kind of special dialect maybe, or they speak very, very uniquely, or maybe they have kind of a funny way of speaking. Whatever that might be. If you have a script, you can check the script and that will tell you what the other person actually said, and you can kind of think about that, like, maybe it's different from the way you've heard that word pronounced in the past, or maybe that's a totally new word that you need to go and look up. So this can be a really great way to work on improving your ability to catch those new sounds and to hear how people link sounds together. So that would be one tip, is to choose materials that have a script, or if you watch videos with captions, that's also great too. But make sure that you have something that you can read so you can check your understanding. That's tip one. My other tip for improving your listening skills would be to listen multiple times, reading and not reading the script. So that means, for example, you listen 3 times, let's say. So the first time you listen with no script, you just listen and try to see, what can I understand? The second time you listen and you read at the same time. And the third time you listen with no script again to see how much you've improved. So another tip with this kind of listening practice is to try to space out your listening sessions over many days. So of course, if you want to and if you have time, you can listen multiple times on the same day. But the point is to improve your listening skills over time, right? It's not just to improve your listening skills for one day. So if you listen, for example, to the same lesson 3 times in a week, and you have a script to refer to, you can refresh your mind on the script a couple times throughout the week, you're probably going to see improvements in your listening skills over time. It'll probably be a lot better than if you just listen one time and try to cram everything in one listening session. So this can be another way to improve your long-term listening skills, and it will also help you to remember any new vocabulary that you find in your listening and your script reading exercises. So those would be my 2 big tips for working on your listening skills: to choose materials that have scripts that you can check and refer to, and to space out your listening practice over time, and to make sure you practice with and without the script, so you retain and remember those new words. So I hope that this helps you, and good luck as you develop your listening skills. Also, you mentioned in your question, how long does it take? Please keep in mind that this is always an ongoing process. We are always developing our listening skills and always developing our ability to recognize new words, even in our native language. So just work on what's in front of you and try to set some small goals that you know that you can achieve for yourself. That will hopefully help you to keep your motivation up. So thanks very much for your question. All right, let's move on to the next question. Next question comes from Chitra Yum. Hi, Chitra. Chitra says, hi, Alicia. The word people and the word persons, which one is correct for the plural form? Can you answer this? Yeah, great question. Okay, so generally speaking, in most cases, you will use the word one person for a single person and 2 or more people for multiple people. This is probably going to be the case in the vast majority of situations. So that means in very, very close to all situations. There are a few situations where you may see someone in writing, probably, using persons to mean the plural of person. And there may be some situations where you see peoples, people with an S. So we can talk quickly about these, but these are kind of rare situations. So the key guide that I want you to remember is one person, 2 or more people. That's the one that you can use in most situations. But let's talk about these other kind of rare situations. In very legal or formal or perhaps official writing, like in rules and contracts and these kinds of things, you may see sometimes persons being used instead of people, like 2 persons or 3 persons, something like that. You may see this choice used in those kinds of situations. We generally don't use this in everyday communication and everyday conversation. So this is kind of this rare or uncommon use of persons. Next, let's talk about the use of peoples, so people with an S. This use is typically used specifically when we're talking about different ethnic or racial groups. So for example, if we're talking about maybe a tribe of native people, we might use peoples to talk about multiple tribes in one region. So for example, if a news article is talking about tribe A, tribe B and tribe C in the article, they might say the peoples of the region. That use of peoples refers to 3 different tribal or ethnic groups. So this is a very, very specific use of this peoples. This is pretty much the only time that we use this S at the end of the word. So you may see this from time to time when talking about specific racial groups or specific ethnic groups or specific tribal groups. But again, in most situations, you can follow the rule of singular, one person, or multiple, 2 or more people. So I hope this clarifies any doubts that you have about the uses of these words. Thanks very much for sending along your question. All right, that is everything that I have for this week. Thank you, as always, for sending your great questions. Remember, you can send them to me at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alicia. Also, there is a link in the YouTube description. Please send me your questions there. Don't send them to me in a YouTube comment or in a Facebook comment or whatever. There's too many questions, so make sure to send them to the official question submission page. Also, if you like this lesson, please, please, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia, and I'm joined again in the studio by...
Michael, hello.
And today we're going to be talking about some misconceptions about America. So let's get right into it. Let's start with you, Michael. What is your first misconception that you've heard about America?
I'm going to have to start with the arrogant American stereotype. So this I think maybe in the past had been a little bit more accurate, but ever since the internet and ever since like the 60s with the Vietnam War and the hippie movement and everything going on then, this has really died down a bit. You know, I'm proud to be an American, but I'm not one of the stereotypical Americans that we're number one, we're the best, blah, blah. This really has died down. Yeah, I hear this a lot though on the internet and whatnot.
Yeah, I know what you mean, the whole, number one thing. At least for me, one of the things that I don't know, I feel like if you say that there's a greatest country in the world, I don't know, I think that's a silly thing to say, that you're the greatest country in the world. Not that I don't, support America or, appreciate all the things that America does, like for me and for people around the world. I feel like I'm treading in dangerous waters right here, right now. But I don't know, there are plenty of good things about other countries too. I'm going to stop here before I get on my soapbox. Anyway, I'm going to go to my first one. My first one is maybe this is one that you've got as well. Hamburgers are the only American food. This is a misconception that I've heard a lot. Hamburgers and variations of hamburgers, cheeseburgers, bacon cheeseburgers, avocado burgers, veggie burgers, whatever. Anything burger is not the only American food. There are plenty of other American foods. Like, even if you just stick around in like the fast food ballpark for a while, there are like hot dogs, there are like Philly cheesesteaks, which are delicious. If you go to the South, there's all kinds of interesting like Louisianan food that you can try down there. You can eat crocodile, you can eat frog legs, which I mean probably is borrowed to some extent from French cuisine. There's lots of fresh fish like salmon from Washington, Oregon, where I'm from. We talked a lot about Tex-Mex and like California burrito culture. There is so much good stuff to try in America, and it's not just burgers. Like American food is more than just burgers. That drives me crazy when people say, "Oh, you're Americans, you must love hamburgers, right?" Well, they're great, but there's so much other good stuff to try.
Yeah.
Yes.
Likewise, just with the hamburger thing, when you think hamburgers, you think fast food, right? And so that's the other stereotype, that even if you want a good, authentic American hamburger, don't go to one of the fast food restaurants. And that's what they think, oh, you're American, you can't appreciate the real good, high quality cheese and blah, blah, blah. If you have a really good, authentic American hamburger, you'll be really happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be really happy. It's really good.
Did I miss any like key American foods? I feel like I hit kind of like the big ones as
Yeah.
far as like, region-centric foods that are big.
That was the first thing I thought of, and you got to it, is Louisiana, as far as like something that people don't usually think about when they think about American food, and that's amazing food. And I think, to take that a little bit further, while traveling and teaching, people would say, oh, your name's not a really American name because my last name is German. But I would tell them that there is no American name. Like a truly American name would be like the Native Americans from way back when. And one of the beauties of America is that it's the melting pot, as you always hear, and that it's a lot of different cultures. So as you were saying about Louisiana food, it's probably borrowed from French and, American food isn't just hamburgers. There's a whole wide array, and as we talked about before, the Mexican food. So, absolutely, there's a big variety, and it's not just one thing.
Yeah, explore American cuisine. There's a lot of it to explore, I think. All right, what's your next misconception?
Next misconception is, well, this one's a little bit specific to where I'm from, is that everybody skis or snowboards in Colorado. So this is something, I think this is natural when you meet somebody from any different state, province, whatever, is that you think about the tourist attractions of that place. And you say, so I meet another American, even within America, and they say, oh, you're from Colorado, do you ski and snowboard? And yeah, sometimes just because I'm from there doesn't mean I'd do it. And to me, I think, it's kind of a rough analogy, but it'd be like meeting someone from France and being like, oh, do you go to the Eiffel Tower every day? Like, yeah, once when I was a kid,
Yeah.
Same thing with America. Oh, just as the whole country, it's what, the Statue of Liberty and these kinds of things.
Right.
Do you ever get that? Or
Yeah, every once in a while. Or like, I'm from Oregon, so we have ski and snowboard culture there, but I'm trying to think if there's, when I say that I was raised in Oregon, if there's something that I usually get back, and I don't think I do. I think California maybe more so. Like, if you say you're from California, it might be something like, oh, well, do you surf or do you go to the beach? Or I think that it's really easy to kind of make an image of that state or what that state's people might be like, and then to ask a question about that. But I don't think that it's necessarily like out of, I don't know, malice that people say such things. I think it's just trying to make a connection, like, oh, I'm familiar to some degree with your state, or I know something about your state. Maybe this is a way we can have a conversation about it. But yeah, like kind of pigeonholing people, like trying to stereotype people based on, where they're from and what you presume they might like to do. I guess it could come off as a little like, a little irritating for some.
Yeah, I don't mind it because I know that it's good intentions. They're just trying to make a connection. And I do the same thing, that I think of all the musicians or famous actors or actresses from whatever the country they're from, and I'll say that. And hopefully you're just trying to make conversation. So it's not a big deal, but again, it's a stereotype, and just try to relate it and put yourself in the shoes. Like what kind of tourist attractions and stereotypes do I not relate to?
Yeah. Or saying, oh, I've been there to such and such attraction before. It was really nice, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's not
harmless,
necessarily bad. It's just one of those things. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. Let's see. The next one that I have, I've heard this now and then. This one that I've heard is Americans all own guns. I've heard this. I don't hear it so.
Me too.
Samesies. Oh gosh, we both had this one. But this is one that I think maybe it's because of action movies, maybe it's because of the news stories that come out about shootings in America, which are horribly tragic and unfortunate. But for some reason, some people have this image that Americans all own guns. I don't own a gun.
Me either.
There's one person, two people who do not own guns, and I know that there are plenty more. There are a lot of people who do not own guns, and I mean, whether or not you support guns, maybe that's a different issue. But this is one point that's always just a little bit confusing to me. That I don't know. I guess maybe this comes from like old Western movies where like cowboys are depicted
I get
as
that
being
stereotype
kind of like
a lot.
this gun-toting, like gun-loving, shoot-'em-up sort of country, but I don't think that it's that. I don't think that that's America.
Yeah.
Well, all of America. There are parts of America. There are some people in America who like guns. Fine, okay, if that's your thing. It's just not mine, and it's not some other people's.
Yeah, I think the fact that we both have to kind of like stop and hesitate. It is an issue, it's a hot topic. It's Second Amendment, right? So it's always, people are constantly debating this. But I tell people, I can't think of 5 people, like in all of my friends and family, 5 people, I can't think of 5 who own a gun. There's some people who are like military, something like this, but like private people, that's really not common. There's only a handful of people I know that own a gun, and they go out shooting. It's not like a big deal. But it is a hot topic, but I hate this. Every time America, cowboy, guns, this kind of, no, I'm not a cowboy, don't have guns, I don't know. Have you ever gone shooting though?
My parents had, do you know clay pigeon shooting? My parents used to do that with their friends. They had, they would just go to a small shooting range, and it's just like this little
disc made of clay, and it was just a sport. It was just for sport. They'd shoot it, or they'd like fly. What do you call it? Like fling. I guess they'd throw like this clay pigeon in the air, and then you'd aim and try to shoot it. It was like a sport. And so my parents had a couple for that, and then I think they sold them after a while because they just didn't do it very often. I fired that a couple times, and I really didn't like it. It just made me feel really uncomfortable.
How old were you?
I was probably 17, 18 or so. Yeah.
It's about the age you would know if you like it or you don't.
I suppose, but
like
it just made me really, really uncomfortable. I didn't like it. But I don't know. I have known people who use them for hunting. Like I knew somebody in high school and college, his dad had one. But he'd go out hunting every year, and he'd go out and kill a deer, and then they'd bring it home and they'd like prepare it, and the family would have that to eat throughout the winter. That was like just one of their family's traditions. But as far as like a handgun, I don't think I've ever met anyone that I know of. Yeah. No, wait, I did know one guy.
See, that's he
was a little. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm really uncomfortable about this video so far. I feel like it's getting controversial.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
let's go to the last one because it's not controversial. Let's go to the last one. My last one is, it'll be quick and easy to see the whole country. No, America is huge, especially, well, compared to a lot of other countries around the world. America is very, very large. I've heard of people saying, like they're gonna go to visit New York, and then they say, okay, and then we're gonna rent a car and we're gonna drive to California. And the Americans in the room will go, you know how long that's going to take you, right? You have some concept of how far that is. And like, a few hours or, a couple days. Like, no, it's far. It's like 5,000 miles across the country. So you should plan some time. I heard about a guy recently who took like a month to bicycle from New York to California. It's crazy. A little bit crazy. He had some people give him car rides along the way. But have you ever run into somebody who like has no concept of how large the country is?
All the time.
Really?
Usually, I mean, again, like we were talking about, you want to make a connection. So usually they just name, everyone knows New York, Texas, California. That's pretty much it when you think America. And so even Americans I know, you really don't put it on scale of how big it is unless you look at a picture and you place like Europe on top and you go, wow, this is pretty huge. Generally, though, I haven't met anybody who's like planning a trip and going. I think when you plan a trip, they make a little more preparations, but yeah, same thing. They really have no idea, no like frame of reference, I guess, because it's kind of its own thing. And
then if you even want to include like Alaska and Hawaii, which are just way out there. Yeah, good luck with that in your week-long trip. Yeah, it's quite large. All right, so those are some common misconceptions about America. Anything else you want to add to this, or anything else you would like to clear up?
Don't you dare say anything about America, because it's not true.
Oh my gosh, just happened. Those are some misconceptions about America. So maybe we've cleared up a few things about America, or maybe we've only intensified a few of your misconceptions about America. Who knows? But thanks very much for joining us this time, and we will see you again when we have another fun topic to discuss. Bye. Going to the beach. Hi everybody, welcome back to Top Words. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to be talking about 20 travel phrases that you should know. So let's go. Do you have any recommendations? The first phrase is, do you have any recommendations? This is great to use when you get to a restaurant where you don't know what the food is, you don't know anything about the local cuisine, or you're just feeling a little bit adventurous. You can ask the waitstaff, do you have any recommendations? How much is this? How much is this? This is useful when you're out shopping or when you're in a restaurant and the price is not clearly marked or something is not clear to you. So you can ask, how much is this? Usually when you point to something, I would recommend like pointing to the menu or pointing to an item. How much is this? I'd like this. You can point to something and say, I'd like this. If you want to say, I'd like one, for example, I don't know, you're getting beer. I'd like one of these. If, however, you're in a situation where you can't point, you can say, I'd like 10 of the blah, blah, blah. I'd like 10 of the blue t-shirts, please. Can I try this on? Is useful when you're shopping for clothes. So you find something that you'd like to try, just ask the staff, can I try this on? You can just say, I want to try this on if you like Do you speak English? You might get asked this phrase. So you should say, if you're watching this video, you should probably say yes, or you can say yes, a little, if you're not feeling very confident. If you're watching this video and you're understanding this part and you say no, then that's a little strange. So, I have a reservation. Usually the staff will greet you and you can say, I have a reservation. Hello, I have a reservation. It's at 7 o'clock. The name is Alicia. Usually we say the name is, or it's under, meaning the reservation is under my name, or it's for name, or it's in name. Water, please. Depending on which country you're from, water may or may not automatically be brought to your table when you're at a restaurant. If you would like more water, however, you can say, water, please. To make it a little more polite, I would wave at the waitstaff and say, could I please have some more water? Do you take credit cards? Do you take credit cards? In case you're not sure if the shop that you're in will accept credit cards or debit cards, you can ask them, do you take credit cards? So it doesn't mean, do you take, meaning, are you going to take my card? But this take means, do you accept credit cards? This isn't what I ordered. So if you're at a restaurant, you order steak and you get lobster instead. You can look at it and go, ah, this isn't what I ordered. Be careful though. Say this politely. If you look at the waitstaff and you say, this isn't what I ordered, they're gonna be like, I don't know, just be a nice customer. Excuse me, but I don't think this is what I ordered, or this isn't what I ordered. Can you please check? Could we have the menu, please? If for some reason you don't receive a menu when you come to the table, you can, again, just wave at a member of the staff and say, could we have the menu, please? Could you give me a discount? Could you give me a discount means I would like a cheaper price, essentially. So it depends on which country you're in. If haggling or bargaining, meaning talking to the seller to try to reduce the price. My family didn't bargain, we didn't haggle, so I don't haggle. It depends on you and your culture, but just be aware of the culture that you're in and the place that you're in before you ask this question. Do you have any vegetarian dishes? This is useful. Some people have specific eating requirements or eating needs, maybe food allergies, for example. You can replace vegetarian with the specific dietary requirement that you have. Do you have any vegan dishes? Do you have any gluten-free dishes? Do you have any low-fat dishes? Do you have any low-carb dishes? Do you have any fish-free dishes? Do you have any... Could you take a picture of me, please? If you are in a location where you would like to take a picture, but you don't want to do a selfie, or you don't have a selfie stick, or whatever, you want someone else to take a picture of you, a stranger that you don't know, you can ask them, could you take a picture of me, please? Or, excuse me, would you mind taking a picture of me, please? I'm allergic to blah, blah, blah. If you have a food allergy or even an allergy to a medicine, this is the phrase you can use to explain that. I'm allergic to wheat, or I can't eat wheat, for example. Is the Wi-Fi free? Meaning, can I use the Wi-Fi free of charge? Keep in mind, some places have a password that you have to ask the staff for. So you can say, is the Wi-Fi free? If they say yes, you can then follow that up with, can I have the password? I'd like to have a non-smoking seat, please. So when you go to a restaurant, you have an option between smoking and non-smoking sections. The staff will say smoking or non-smoking. You can say, I'd like to have a non-smoking seat, please. Quite honestly though, the most natural response is just to say non-smoking. Could I get a map? Maybe it's a map of the subway system for the city that you're in, or maybe it's a map of the area around your hotel. You could say, could I have a map as well? Could I have the check? You're finished at your cafe, you're finished at the restaurant, and it's time to leave, it's time to pay. So you say to the waitstaff, excuse me, could I have the check? Another more common expression perhaps is, excuse me, check please. You might also hear bill. Excuse me, can I have the bill? Where is the bathroom? Very important question. If you're traveling in America, we don't really use the word toilet or washroom very much. We use bathroom or restroom to talk about toilet facilities. Excuse me, can you tell me where the bathroom is? Or excuse me, I'm looking for the bathroom, or I'm looking for the restroom. Is this the train for blah, blah, blah? Or is this the train that goes to blah, 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 to confirm with someone that I'm indeed on the correct train line. If I say, is this the train bound for San Francisco? You can use that to check if you're correct. So that's the end. Those are 20 travel phrases that you can use when you're traveling in an English-speaking country. Give them a try. I hope that they go well for you. Of course, there are many different variations on these themes, so be sure to experiment a little bit. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Top Words, and we will see you again soon. Bye! The things that I do before I travel to a country where I cannot speak the language, I actually learned numbers. Okay, Fiend. Hi everybody, welcome back to Top Words. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 ways to prepare for travel. So let's go. Choose your destination. The first step is to choose your destination. Destination is the place you want to go. So of course, choose your destination to begin your travels. In a sentence, if you choose your destination based only on price, you might be disappointed. Buy a guidebook. The next expression is buy a guidebook, or maybe download a guidebook at this point. Buy a guidebook. So once you have chosen your destination, you can buy a guidebook for your destination, which will give you tips about what to do there. In a sentence, I bought my guidebook on the internet and it was great. You can buy a guidebook at a used bookstore for less. Save money. Phrase for travel is save money. So once you have chosen your destination and bought a guidebook, you need to save money if you haven't saved money already. So travel can be expensive. You need to save money for your actual transportation as well as for the things you plan to do in your destination. So in a sentence, I'm trying to save money for a trip to Europe next year. Saving money is hard, but it's worth it when you're on the trip. Book a flight. The next step is to book a flight. So you've saved your money, you've chosen your destination, you've bought the guidebook, now you need to book your flight. So to book means to reserve. It's the same as in like book a restaurant, for example, book a hotel, book a flight. So in a sentence, I booked my flight for my vacation last week. Research the costs. Research the costs. Well, I hope you do this before you book your flight, but you research the costs of where you're going to go. How much does it cost to eat there? How much does transportation cost there? How much are sightseeing attractions going to cost there? Those kinds of things. So you need to research the costs for your trip. In a sentence, I researched the costs for my upcoming vacation in Europe and it seems pretty reasonable. Request vacation time. The next step is to request vacation time, or to request time off, or to ask for time off. So at your job, if you need to take time away from your job to go traveling somewhere, you need to request vacation time. In a sentence, I'm going to request vacation time next week and I feel a little bit nervous. Book accommodations. The next expression is book accommodations, or just book a hotel, or book a hostel, something like that. Book an Airbnb as well is fine. So this means to reserve the place you are going to stay in your destination. Let's see. In a sentence, I booked my hotel on the internet. Obtain an international driving license. The next one, for some of you, perhaps if you really want to do all of the things, you can obtain an international driving license. So maybe if you really want to be able to drive a car in your destination, you can get a driver's license, permission to drive a car in the country of your destination. So in a sentence, I'm taking the test for my international driver's license next week. I hope I pass. Pack. The next one is the verb pack. So to pack. Pack means to put things in a suitcase or to put things in a box. This motion of putting things in something else for the purpose of taking them elsewhere is packing. We do it when we move to a new house or when we travel. In a sentence, I need to pack for my trip next week. Get a visa. The next expression is get a visa. So in some countries, you need to get a visa before you go to the country. Even if you're just there as a tourist, you need to get a visa, special permission to be in that country. Sometimes you have to pay money for it, so you need to research this before you travel. In a sentence, I got my visa when I arrived in Australia. All right, so those are 10 phrases that you can use as you prepare to travel. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you can use these the next time you plan to travel somewhere. Thanks very much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for more fun stuff. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye!
everyone, my name is Bridget and welcome to today's lesson. The topic for this lesson is Top 10 Must-Know Phrases for the Restaurant. Let's get started. A table for 3, please. A table for 3, please. You tell them the number of people that you are total so that the host can bring you to an appropriate table. A table for 2, please. A table for 5, please. Could I please see a menu? Could I please see a menu? Usually, menus are given to you as soon as you sit down at your table. But if that's not the case and you need to ask, this is a polite way to do it. Could I please see a menu? I'd like to try this dish. I'd like to try this dish. When looking at a menu, hopefully you'll find something you want to eat. I'd like to try this dish. Could you leave out the onions? Could you leave out the onions? If there's an ingredient in the dish that you're ordering that you don't want, you can always ask the waiter if it could be prepared without that ingredient. So for example, I might say, could I get the burger but with no cheese? Could you pass the salt? Could you pass the salt? When you're at a restaurant, especially if you're at a big table with a lot of people, you might not always be able to reach things. So you would ask, could you pass me the salt? Could you pass me the ketchup? Could you pass me another napkin? Waiter! Waiter! A waiter is someone who takes your order and brings you food. In America and in many other Western countries, it's more polite to call a waiter to your table by simply saying, "Excuse me?" Or if you see another waiter walking by, but it's not your waiter, you can always say, "Excuse me, if you see our waiter, could you please let them know to come to our table?" Is there any dairy in this dish? Is there any dairy in this dish? This is something you would say if you have a dairy allergy, a dairy intolerance, or you just don't like dairy. You're asking the waiter about the ingredients in a particular dish. I do this all the time. Is there any cheese in this? No? Okay. And if there is an ingredient that you don't want, for example, onions, you could say, are there any onions in this? And the waiter might say yes. And if you don't want it, you could always request, could you leave out the onions? Could you prepare it without the onions, please? Can we get separate checks? Can we get separate checks? This is actually something that's very common, especially in America. If you might go out with a group of friends, or even if you're on a date, sometimes you might want to get separate checks, pay for your own things. That way, you can all pay separately just for what you yourself ordered, and you won't have to worry about owing each other money or calculating off a big, huge bill. Are there any specials today? Are there any specials today? A special at a restaurant is a dish that isn't usually on the menu. It's something that's special, but it's a special that the chef is offering that day or that week or that month. So sometimes if you don't see what the specials are, you'd ask your waiter, "Excuse me, are there any specials today? Could we have the bill, please? Could we have the bill, please?" This is how you request that the check or the bill comes to your table. Could we get the check, please? Could we get the bill, please? You're asking this to your waiter, who will then bring you the check and you can pay. And that brings us to the end of today's lesson. If you guys enjoyed this lesson, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And don't forget to go to EnglishClass101.com to learn more English.
Hi everybody, welcome back to English Topics. My name is Alicia and I'm joined by
Davey.
Hi Davey. So today our topic is going to be how to start a conversation in English. So both of us have tried to prepare a few tips that might help you as you try to start conversations in your English language studies. So let's begin. You want to start first again?
Oh, okay.
I'll start. I can start first.
I'll start.
Okay.
I'll
Okay,
start.
go first.
We're giving tips on how to start a conversation. I will start today. My first tip, very important. I'm trying to follow myself right now. Don't be shy. Very important tip. This isn't really so much a language learning tip. Well, it doesn't seem like a language learning tip, but I think it really is, because whenever you communicate in a second language or a foreign language, it can be really nerve-wracking. It can make you very nervous and very anxious to try and do that, and especially if you're talking to someone for the first time. And so the first thing is just to remind yourself that it's not a big deal and to not be shy and be confident. And if you can maintain that attitude as you begin to talk to someone, it will be much easier, I think.
I agree. Or even, like you say,
Mm-hmm.
even if you are shy, just pretend that you're not shy.
That's a good tip.
You know, it's like, even if you can just pretend just for a few minutes, just to start the conversation or to continue a conversation a little bit, it can be good, even if you feel shy.
I agree. And you might find too, oftentimes people who would say that they are shy, when they talk to someone in another language, they can have a different personality. It's a chance to have a different personality in a different language. So if you tell yourself that too, when you speak English, when you speak another language, you're more confident than you are when you speak your own language.
Yeah, that's
Maybe.
true. I've heard that before, actually. People who say that they feel like they're more outgoing when they speak English. If that's the case, maybe that's good for you. Also, just in general, another point about maybe not only starting conversations, but continuing them. We're comfortable, English language speakers are, with interruptions to some point. Like, you shouldn't always interrupt the other
But they
speaker.
are pretty comfortable with it.
See, he just did it. So we're very comfortable with it. So you don't need to wait for an invitation to speak in a conversation. You can just join in, or maybe agree with the person who's speaking or disagree with the person who's speaking as a way to join a conversation that's already in progress. Yeah, nice one. That's a good one. Okay,
What do you
I
have?
will share a tip. Mine are a little bit, I don't know, they're very dependent on maybe who you're talking to, maybe what your relationship is. So let's say for this one, you are in a place where, like a restaurant or a bar or something, and you don't know the person you'd like to speak to, but maybe, I don't know, there's someone attractive you'd like to speak to, or maybe you want to speak with the bartender, something. So maybe this is better if you're trying to speak to a fellow customer. So I have, it's sort of small, make a simple comment about something happening in the surroundings. So this should be one, a simple comment, two, something that the other person can clearly see, and three, something that you can agree on easily. So, for example, if somebody has just walked by the restaurant wearing like a crazy hat, I don't know, you could say like, oh, did you see that guy? Something like that. Something that it's easy to agree on to initiate the conversation. Or maybe, I don't know, there's a TV in the bar, like, whoa, did you see that play? Or something that maybe you can identify that you maybe shared with the other person during the time you've been in that space together. So this should be a very simple comment. Don't make a weird comment here. Make it very, very relaxed. Create a relaxed environment that the other person feels they can join in easily.
That's a very good tip.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of maybe a time that I used this. Or maybe I wanted to make a comment, and there was another person that happened to be there, and we had a moment where we agreed on something,
Right.
but then the conversation didn't really continue.
Yes.
So it's kind of a good way to test and see if that other person wants to speak to you too.
Yes, yeah. That's a good point. And it makes me think, this isn't one of my tips. This is a free tip. You're getting a freebie tip now. Is, I think...
Tips everywhere.
They're flying around.
So many tips.
To be patient. Wait for your opening too, because you might want to talk to this person next to you, but if you just butt in with a question out of nowhere, it might seem very strange. But if you wait and have a moment, wait for that guy with the funny hat to walk by, and then you have your opening. Then you have a natural point that you can enter a conversation with someone.
Yeah, and I think
so. Be patient.
Totally. And going back to your point about not being shy, like, don't be so focused on waiting for that moment that you just pick something really strange.
Yes, yeah.
Like, if I walked up to you, I don't know you, in a bar, and was like, did you hear that noise?
Yes.
It's like, that's a really strange
question.
Maybe he did hear that noise, but that's a really strange question to introduce yourself.
Yeah, it's true. This this kind of relates to my second tip, which is very similar to your tip about making a kind of comment. Was ask an indirect question. And I noticed a lot of the comments, your tip was to make a comment, but a lot of your comments, the examples you gave, were questions, right?
That's true.
And importantly, I think that those questions should be kind of indirect questions. For example, if I'm standing at the bus stop and I want to start a conversation with someone else standing at the bus stop, let's say it's very, very hot, But if I turn to that person and say, "Do you think it's hot?" That's very strange. But if I say something like, "Oh, it's pretty hot today, right?" That's a little bit more casual, a little bit more informal.
Yeah.
You don't want to scare people with these very direct questions.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And even a question, that's a great example. Do you think it's hot is a really weird question.
Very strange question.
but again, keeping or giving people that opportunity to agree with you. Like
Yes.
you're throwing a little opinion out there. It's hot, right? Oh yeah, it's hot.
That's true.
That's a really, really good one. I totally agree. But I think for that exact same reason, I've had some people come up to me and they tried to begin a conversation with, "How are you?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
That's an introduction that you use for people that you already know.
Yes.
So don't try to start a conversation with, "How are you?" It sounds too familiar and it's a little confusing to the person. you're speaking
Strangers
with.
don't always want to tell you how they are.
That's true. What if I'm bad? I don't want to tell you. What if I feel bad that day? Yeah. So don't use "How are you?" to introduce yourself. Nice one. Okay.
Okay, what do you have next?
Actually, okay, maybe this is somewhat related to the one you just mentioned.
Okay.
I've got, okay, this is maybe in a party or a social event situation. I have energetically introduce yourself and ask a question about where you are. So this might be a little specific, but if you go to a social event where you're there to meet people and to speak to people, if you go up to someone and you just introduce yourself with a big smile and say, "Hi, my name is Alicia. Have you ever been to one of these events before?" Something like that can get the conversation started. But again, I feel like it's a tip that's good in a place where maybe everyone is there for a similar purpose. If you do that, to use your example, at the bus station, it's a little bit weird. Or if you're just in public, you pass someone on the street, it's a little strange to just walk up and introduce someone energetically. But if you're in a location where you have this chance, there are a couple of nice little introductory questions you could use for events. That's one that I've used. Like, "Hi, is this your first time here?" Or "Who do you know at this party?"
Yes, something like that.
"How did you find out about this event?"
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Also, similar kind of question in those situations is asking someone for help or for information, because it lets that other person know that you're not a scary or threatening person in that situation either. If you're asking for help, "Oh, can you tell me where the kitchen is? I need to put this in the refrigerator," something like that. And then that shows the other person that you're not an expert on this. You're asking for their help, and that kind of gives people an easy thing to engage you on, an easy thing to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Asking for help can be a nice way too.
Yeah, that's a good point, I think, asking for help. It also kind of puts you in a slightly vulnerable position.
Absolutely.
It makes you seem a little bit like, "Oh, I need help, so, please take care of me." It's a little bit interesting. So that's a good tip too, I think. Okay. I think we're on to number 3 for you.
We are. My last one is a very important one. This comes at the end, though, is don't take it personally if the person doesn't want to talk. A lot of times, if you try and start a conversation with a stranger, they don't always want to talk to you. People try and talk, a stranger tries to talk to me, I might be very busy, I might have had a bad day, I may not want to talk to them. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person or they can't speak English or anything like that. So if you have that experience, my first tip was don't be shy. You might be very nervous about starting a conversation with someone. And then you work up the courage, you go and you ask them a question and they don't want to talk to you. That's okay. Don't take it personally. It has nothing to do with you. You can find someone else to talk to.
That's true. That's true. And I think that's especially important because, especially depending on the culture that you're from, you might have heard oh, English speakers, particularly Americans, are so friendly or so outgoing. But if a stranger tries to speak to me or to you, maybe we're going to ignore you on the street because we don't know who that person is. Or, maybe like you say, we've had a bad day or whatever it is. There are so many reasons not to want to talk to a person that you don't know. So don't be offended. Don't be sad.
Don't be discouraged. Don't think that, oh, my English is so bad, this person didn't want to talk to me. Don't think that. That it could be any other reason why someone doesn't want to talk to you.
That's true. That's true. Nice tip. That's really important. Okay, then we will move on maybe to my last one. Okay, so for my last one, this is maybe among people that you have some acquaintance with. So maybe you're not super close to them, but you've seen them before, or maybe it's coworkers you're not super close to. But anyway, you'd like to make your relationship with those people deeper. You can share a story about something you did recently, something interesting, a small short story. Don't tell a long 10-minute story about, I don't know, going shopping for milk on the weekend. That's boring. But something interesting that you did relatively recently that maybe they can find something of interest or something of value in. So maybe you found a new restaurant that was good. Maybe you went to a concert and that was exciting. Maybe you met someone interesting. So if there's something that you can share about yourself that the other person might find valuable, that's a good way to initiate conversation.
Yeah.
So.
On that point, if I can add another free tip.
Oh my gosh.
On that note, it made me think. You spoke earlier about being vulnerable. Asking for help can show that you're vulnerable. Tell an embarrassing story.
That's good too.
Don't brag. Don't talk about this great new car that you bought. No one wants to hear that. Talk about how you lost your car keys immediately after you bought your new car. Tell an embarrassing story. Tell something that will make the person laugh and will make you be vulnerable and look like a normal person.
That's true. That's true. Like telling, actually, that's a good strategy. It's called self-deprecation. So it means to make yourself look bad or to put yourself in a lower status, a lower position. And it can be very effective for making friends and like making people laugh. I totally do this. It's actually a lot of fun. When you think about it, like a story about something bad happening is oftentimes more interesting than a story about something good happening.
That's true.
So
all the best comedies are about terrible things happening.
Yeah. So if you have something like a little, like you lost your car keys or you had some kind of funny episode where maybe you don't look like the hero of the story, that's a really good one to share. Have you had anything happen to you recently?
Oh my gosh. I probably have.
I lost my bag. I just came back from traveling in Europe and my bag got lost between Dubai airport and Tokyo airport.
Oh no.
And so my bag didn't arrive. So I had to go 2 days without any of my clothes or anything. And then when I finally got my bag, I was like, yay, I got it from the delivery guy. I was so happy. I opened it up and then like my sunscreen had exploded inside my bag. I was like, at least I have my objects. Like, I have my clothes and things.
And they won't get sunburned.
Exactly. Now I won't sunburn any of my clothes. So yeah. So I mean, it's like a small relatable, that moped, small relatable story. That maybe someone else can identify, like, oh, that happened to me one time, and then the conversation rolls from there. So nice tip. Okay, are you out of free tips? Are those all your free tips?
That's all for today.
For conversation starters?
That's all I get today.
We can't continue this conversation. That's a different subject. All right. Well, we'll finish there for today. Thanks very much for joining us for this episode of English Topics. Davey, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
If you liked this video, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel as well. Also, if you want to find more content like this, please make sure to check us out at EnglishClass101.com. If you have any ideas for how to start a conversation that you use, please make sure to leave it in a comment too so we can check it out. Thanks very much for watching this episode, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Are you struggling to understand conversations in your target language? This video will improve your listening skills using practice dialogues. How do you know if your language skills are improving? Our team of teachers have designed a free quiz to determine your actual learning level. So click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for you. In this lesson, you'll listen to a dialogue with the text. Second, you'll review the key vocabulary, followed by the English translations. And finally, you'll review the dialogue with the text again to master what you learned. First, listen to the dialogue with the text on the screen.
Okay, everybody. Shift information has been posted for the month. It looks like we'll visit 25 cities in 30 days.
Do we normally visit 25 different cities in 1 month?
Yes, sometimes we visit even more.
Where's our first stop?
Charlotte.
Hey, I have friends in Charlotte. It would be nice to see them.
Now you will hear the key vocabulary, followed by the English translation.
Shift.
Scheduled time for a person to work.
Shift. Shift. Posted.
Affixed or placed on a wall, board, or website.
Posted. Posted. Month.
Any of the 12 divisions of the calendar year.
Month. Month. Visit.
To go to and stay at a place for a short period of time.
Visit. Visit. 30.
A cardinal number representing the third cycle of 10.
30. 30. Normally.
In a normal or regular way.
Normally. Normally. Different.
Not alike. Dissimilar.
Different. Different. Cities.
2 or more large or important towns.
Cities. Cities. Stop.
An interruption in a journey.
Stop. Stop.
Finally, let's review the dialogue again. See if you can understand more this time.
Okay, everybody. Shift information has been posted for the month. It looks like we'll visit 25 cities in 30 days.
Do we normally visit 25 different cities in 1 month?
Yes, sometimes we visit even more.
Where's our first stop?
Charlotte.
Hey, I have friends in Charlotte. It would be nice to see them.
This is the end of the lesson. In this lesson, you improved your listening and mastered key vocabulary for everyday life conversation. Don't forget to click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for your learning level. Keep practicing and move on to the next lesson. Are you struggling to understand conversations in your target language? This video will improve your listening skills using practice dialogues. How do you know if your language skills are improving? Our team of teachers have designed a free quiz to determine your actual learning level. So click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for you. In this lesson, you'll listen to a dialogue with the text. Second, you'll review the key vocabulary, followed by the English translations. And finally, you'll review the dialogue with the text again to master what you learned. First, listen to the dialogue with the text on the screen.
Excuse me, I'm not from San Jose. Could you tell me how to get to Alexander's, please?
Alexander's? You mean the little steakhouse on the corner?
I'll bet that's it. I'm a flight attendant and my crew is supposed to meet me there in a few hours.
Well, it's 3 streets that way, then turn left. There's a big sign that says Alexander's.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now you will hear the key vocabulary, followed by the English translation.
Steakhouse.
A restaurant that specializes in serving steaks.
Steakhouse. Attendant.
A person employed to provide a service.
Attendant. Streets.
Public roads in a city or town.
Streets. Corner.
An angle where two or more sides meet.
Corner.
Flight.
Act of flying.
Flight.
Crew.
A group of people who work on and operate some kind of ship.
Crew.
Turn. To move in a particular direction. Turn.
Finally, let's review the dialogue again. See if you can understand more this time.
Excuse me, I'm not from San Jose. Could you tell me how to get to Alexander's, please?
Alexander's? You mean the little steakhouse on the corner?
I'll bet that's it. I'm a flight attendant and my crew is supposed to meet me there in a few hours.
Well, it's 3 streets that way, then turn left. There's a big sign that says Alexander's.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is the end of the lesson. In this lesson, you improved your listening and mastered key vocabulary for everyday life conversation. Don't forget to click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for your learning level. Keep practicing and move on to the next lesson.
Today's video is on words Americans overuse. I haven't seen these words yet, but apparently it's going to be a series of words that we as Americans, I'm American, we overuse, we use too often. So let's start. The first word is definitely. Definitely is definitely a word that Americans overuse. We use it to put emphasis at the end of a phrase, to put emphasis at the end of a sentence, as in, oh, that party last week was so great. Yeah, definitely. Or to agree with somebody like that. Oh, God, literally. Oh, just in the last few days, I've seen the word literally so many times on the internet and used in just such stupid ways. The word literally means actually or truly something. This is literally the best hamburger I've ever eaten. So literally, meaning truly or actually, would mean that in that person's entire life, that is the best hamburger they've ever eaten. However, it gets misused a lot in sentences, like George Bush was literally supporting the war in Iraq or something like that. Taking a phrase like that literally would have to mean that, the former president would be, physically supporting a war with his body. Onward? Onward. Hilarious. Hilarious is the next word. I like to use the word hilarious when something is actually funny. Hilarious, of course, means something that is really funny, super funny. It's a step above funny, maybe 2 steps, 3 steps, I don't know. However, people like to use this word in place of laughter. So, for example, friends are talking, and instead of just laughing, the friend will say, "That's hilarious." Well, if it's so hilarious, just laugh. Oh, this must be the last one, because this is the worst one. This word is like. I've probably said it several times already today. For the purposes of this video, the word like is used as a filler word. So it's the same as something such as or for example. We use like as a filler word when we're trying to think of something. It's not uncommon to hear the word repeated like 3, 4, 5 times in a row when someone is thinking. They'll say, "Oh, that party that I went to? Do you know who was there?" It just invades your speech sometimes when you're trying to think of something and no other filler words come out, but the word like does. This wasn't the last word. There is another one. Seriously. Seriously is used. Oh, it's good for anytime you receive bad news. Well, not from your boss. It's a really casual word. But if you hear something like your friend lost their job, and you can sympathize with them or maybe empathize with them by saying, "Seriously? Oh, that's too bad." Or, "Oh, tell me, like, all your problems." Oh my God, I just used like. Oh God, I hate myself. Is that the end? It's the end! All right, well, I hope you enjoyed learning about a few words that Americans overuse. I'm sure that there are more words that Americans overuse, but perhaps you'll find those out on your own. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone.